So I wanted to get started tonight by just asking you. So, Randy, please
Yes,
start out by telling us so exactly Beyond Barriers Unscripted. So, Beyond
sure.
Barriers Unscripted definition, please define your podcast, please. Go right ahead.
Thanks. So unscripted is the easy part of it. It just means that, I try to capture an unscripted conversation with my guests. The guests are folks from the blind and low vision community that have done something that have caught my attention and have inspired me. And I think it's just kind of a get to know you conversation. The Beyond Barriers comes from a YouTube channel I have called Beyond Barriers Project. And that is actually a bunch of little clips of a music support group that we started a few years ago where I work. I work at an agency called Society for the Blind. I teach assistive technology. But when I started playing music with some of the students, I really became part of the community and having friends. And I started realizing, yeah, we've got blindness and low vision and all that stuff. But that doesn't mean that we don't get divorced. That doesn't mean that there's not language barriers. We're still human beings. We're still having that human experience. And so I was in the music room one day with Gerald Medina. He's from Dominican Republic, and he used to come in to play music with us. He was staying up in Northern California and speak English. I don't set language barrier. It was another barrier as a human being, and we find a way to move beyond that barrier. So, yeah,
Excellent.
I hope.
That makes perfect sense, Randy. I completely understand. Yes. Good, good. Now, how originally let's kind of retrace our steps a little. So, how did you get into this whole assistive technology field in the first place and all of that? What's your history there?
So, I have low vision, and my whole life I've never known anybody else with vision loss, not substantial vision loss. And I've always worked in the sighted world. I was a journeyman plumber. I was a construction worker. We built like carpet stores and stuff. And I finally, when I was 36, I couldn't work, in construction anymore, and I needed really to get a job with technology. And I had an apprentice, so I kind of was teaching already, the trade. And I have a lot of kids, so I think I'm kind of a natural teacher. And I love technology and I love computers. I've been playing with them since I was about 10. The Apple IIe was the first computer I ever. I went through a time where I worked as an AOD counselor. And again, it's just helping people, right? And so I went through Access Technology Institute, and I went through the coursework there. And one of the employees that was over at Society for the Blind was actually in class with me, and he had recommended when they had an opening. He had recommended me. I had gone to Society as a student back in like 2015, and briefly, took a couple classes. But it wasn't really until I started working there and connecting with the students and the staff, and just welcome home. What I mean. I don't have to pretend like I can see something here. Um, and I can just relate it on the on the human level. And I think for myself, it's I'm middle aged, and it's almost like a new beginning for me in a lot of ways. I don't know if I just went off on some tangent, but you kind of
That
get my
it
brain going.
Well, that's kind of what a podcast is, right? To get us thinking, to
Yeah,
get us having a conversation, and to go off
yeah,
on tangents,
sure.
to which I am guilty of tangents myself. So that is fine. Well, anyway, really really excellent. I completely understand. I mean, what can you tell us about the society? You say Society of the Blind, and it sounds like it's somewhere in California, but
Sure.
what can you tell us about that organization?
So, so if you want to check out the agency, it's societyfortheblind.org, but it's societyfortheblind.org, and we're in Sacramento, California. We're a nonprofit agency. We have a low vision clinic. And for those people that don't know what a low vision clinic is and how that's different from your typical ophthalmologist or optometrist, is they're not really there to treat you for vision loss. They're there to take a look at how can we use the functional vision that you have through magnification, telescopic lenses, and other devices, right? And they may, that's kind of our whole philosophy. It's like, let's take an inventory of what you got and see how we can work with that. So we have the low vision clinic, then we have the senior impact program, which is for people that are 55 and older. And what that is it's, we have an African American support group. We have a Spanish speaking support group. We have just general SIP, what we call SIP, Senior Impact Program. And so it's available for free. You don't have to have a case with Department of Rehab or anything like that, right? So they get services, and right now they're doing, a lot of virtual stuff going on right now. We have a training center down on 13th and S Street, Sacramento. We also call the core department, and so that teaches the four core skills that a person needs to be successful, goals. And so it's Braille. We teach orientation and mobility. We have NOMC certified instructors. I work in the assistive technology department. We also teach living skills. Everybody on the staff that teaches, has some degree of vision loss, either completely blind, but we all, even myself, I use voiceover on my phone. I actually teach voiceover, and I teach a lot of Windows and JAWS and stuff like that. But how I got into that, Paul recommended me to work there. I just remember the question you asked me a minute ago. So we have those departments. Now that's generally funded by the Department of Rehabilitation. So the California Department of Rehabilitation. I think every state has one. So that, and now we also teach Braille. So we teach grade 1 and grade 2 Braille. Our Braille instructor just got UAB certified. We also teach living skills, and that's things from labeling stuff in your kitchen to learning how to use the Seeing AI app on your iPhone when you're grocery shopping, how to plan. One of the biggest things I think that's been really helpful for people is always to have a plan. What's the next step? And I use that concept when I teach technology, because when you're an O&M, you orient yourself and then you make your move, because you don't want to walk out into a street and not know it, right? And computers, it's not going to hurt you like that, but computers, you should really know where you're at. So you have commands, you have like the focus, where's focus right now, or what's in the voiceover cursor. And then you make your move. And I really try to enforce that or reinforce that, with my students. Just think about what you're doing. So we teach that. And then we also have the Careers Plus program. And if you want to know more about that, I have on my podcast, there's a couple episodes. So episode 4, I think episode 18, I'm going to be putting another one out soon with an interview with them. But what they are is they offer, man, I wish I had this when I was going through high school. And this is also free because it's paid for through a grant. And it's high school students and, through that transition age going into college. And they do like weekly meetings. They do things to help build confidence. They do resume workshops. They do, what's your elevator speech? They have, and we also have a YouTube channel called SFTB Student. And one of the guest speakers that they just had on there, this gal she works for NASA, and she's completely blind. And she works for NASA, and she's like a program manager for one of the departments, I believe. And she, and even more impressive than that, I think, is she's also navigated successfully the foster, the foster care system, and has actually been able to adopt. And if you've ever been blind or known somebody that's blind and trying to go through that kind of process, there's a lot of barriers and obstacles you have to overcome. So it's, we try to be real with the people in those presentations. Not everything was so easy and things just happened. You want to talk about the challenges and how you overcome it, and just, the perseverance and so that's kind of a snapshot of what we do. And then we have the music support group that I run. And that's always been a lunchtime thing. So like twice a week. This is when the building was open. Hopefully we'll be opening by the end of the year again. but we have a designated music group there, our music room. We have, drum sets, keyboards, electric guitars and stuff. And it's just a place where we can come and meet on a regular basis and just jam. And then, what we were doing is every month we would pick a Saturday and do like a whole music day out in the big room. So we have like this room there that's got like 3,000 square feet of space. And it's really cool when you got 10 guys in there playing acoustic guitar. You've got it's way cool. And so that's kind of what kicked off the idea for the podcast. Was I was already recording and participating and doing this sort of stuff. I've always had an interest in doing audio production and, kind of as a hobby. But when we couldn't play music anymore, I started working with one of my students. I was teaching them voiceover on a Mac in a program called Logic Pro. And so it's like, well, let's use Zoom and see if we can work together and make a podcast episode. And that's how Beyond Barriers Unscripted started. Did we lose again?
Excellent. I am here. That is perfect.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Great.
Probably more than you asked for. Sorry.
No, that's, this is what I want out of a guest. I want you to give more than I put in. That's what I want. Sure. Okay. Well, that's really, really good.
Great.
Yeah. So, you've been working with a lot of people. What was the most unexpected or most unusual lesson you have learned from all the people you've worked with so far? What do you think?
Most unusual lesson I've learned?
Correct. Or a lesson that really, challenged your school of thinking, or that really made you think critically about the way that you're approaching certain things, something to that effect.
Okay. This is, so March 17th, was it 2019? No, of 2020. We went into work and we were told that, the county here in Sacramento had ordered the social distancing and lockdown, basically. So that was the last day we were going to be in the office. And we were told, midnight tonight, you can't come in the office anymore. We're going to explore doing remote teaching. I have low vision, and I use a combination of a screen reader and magnification and high contrast. So I've always had that in the classroom when I'm working with the student, even though I teach JAWS and I'm pretty good with it, but I don't think I had the confidence I developed as a result of going into remote teaching, and I prefer, actually, and I think it's better for the students, that we can do as much of it just by audio and just talking. I need to sometimes prove myself that I can do that I'm not just a sighted person looking over your shoulder and you know what I mean? And I was kind of scared honestly, I've never told my employer this, but I found a way to work with it, and not be dependent on that vision, because my vision, and here's a real world. I recently recorded a podcast episode, and this guy's pretty well known in the audio description industry. And I'm on my computer, and instead of really zooming in, I don't know why I did it, but I clicked on what I thought was the record button, and it was the share screen button. And so we went through this whole interview for an hour, and I never hit record.
No.
Well, thankfully, this fella, he's and I don't want to blow his name because it'll come out when the episode comes out. But fortunately, this guy's an audio pro. He's a voiceover talent, and he and I had worked it out where he was going to record his audio separately and then send me. And I try to do that with my guests because it just sounds better. It sounds like you're in the same studio when you do it that way. And so, so fortunately, I have his. Now I've got to go back and reconstruct my dialogue. Also, I for Andy Kubel that day, so I try to reconstruct that dialogue and edit it together where it's sounds cohesive, where you wouldn't even know. That's the magic of editing. That's why my episodes take so damn long to get out. Excuse me. I edit and I can spend 4 or 5 hours on an episode that ends up being 30 minutes long. 30 to 40 minutes long. So the other thing I've learned is, sorry.
No, that is fine. That's an interesting one. That would really scare me. But I'm sure that, Randy, I would tell you, just like I would tell any other guest here at Aaron's Opinion, I'm sure that these types of embarrassing or silly technical faux pas happen a lot more than we're even aware. It's just the podcasters don't say that they happen. But I'm sure you are not the first one to forget to push record. That happens constantly. Yeah.
And the thing is, we got a really good interview with this guy, so I really want to use what he gave us. So hopefully that'll be up in a month. So
yeah. I see. Well, I'll have to check that out. I always and I'm quite entertained by this, in a sense, quite entertained by this. I always get accused of stealing guests, which is fine, as long as they're people that can help all of us together in the podcast community. So, Randy, if you know anyone who would benefit from Aaron's Opinion, who would benefit from coming to me and having this conversation, definitely send them my way, because I'm always looking for the next, always looking for guests, guys, always looking for next guests. And although I do not come across right away as open, I am actually a lot more open than people would realize, and I don't turn away guests. It would take a lot for me to turn away a guest, just like I'm sure it would take a lot for you to deny a guest.
Down twice.
The what? What's this now? What?
I've been turned down twice. I've been turned down twice. Seriously, I've asked 2 people, in other words, and they've said no. Actually, one of them didn't say it that nicely. So, but to each their own.
Well, that's
the truth.
That's well, okay then. Well, that's
for
too
me,
bad.
Anyways.
Well, that's too bad. I think sometimes people get a little bit nervous, get a little shy.
Sure.
And that can
I get nervous every time I do one of these.
Really? Oh, well, that's fine. You don't need to be nervous right now. Certainly not. But that is all fascinating. So that's really cool. Now, back to the place where you work. Yes, every state has, as you say, kind of a department of rehabilitation or a division of rehab services. Every state has something like that.
Right.
Some of those departments are obviously more robust than others. So what does your department do? And I don't mean that, by the way, guys, when I say that, I'm not meaning it in a judgmental way. I'm just saying it, very, very objectively. Very objectively. Every state and every department is a little different. So how has your department done? Let's take an example of helping, blind people find employment and things like that. What do you know about that, and what do you do for that?
Sure. So and that's kind of where the Careers Plus program that I mentioned, there's always workshops. But this building shut down. We just an example of what we've done with Careers Plus, what Richard Rudd has done, and also just collaboration with other departments and just society in general. Was Apple, for example, came in one day and they did a 6-hour, I think it was a 4-hour presentation. They had 10 people come from their human resources department.
10?
I think they maybe even had yeah.
What do you need?
There's 10 people. What do you mean? Well, 10? Listen, I'm going to tell you. Hold on. We had like 40, 50 people in this conference room, in society, and they brought these are all people that are, blind and low vision consumers in Northern California, and they brought their resumes. And they had a chance to sit down and actually talk to the recruiters from Apple. And I think 2 people ended up getting hired during that year. They were at that presentation. We've worked with, and I don't know what the current status was, but I know that we were working with the Fortune 60 company, and I'm not going to see the company because I don't know that it went through, but they're a Fortune 60 company in the area, and they were working on, possibly exploring internships. One of the things that what brought that about was I had the fortune to work with a client who worked for a major health insurance company. Let's just put it that way. And she was my student in the classroom at Society for about 3 months, but she urgent, she was going to lose her job and she had lost her vision. And as a matter of fact, there's if you go on, and I can tell you if you want a link or something, there's a documentary that on us talking about this. And so what happened was I would go out to her employment place for 2 afternoons out of the week, for 3 or 4 hours, and I would work with her one-on-one, helping her to acclimate back into, does this application need scripting? We ended up calling somebody in to do some scripting because there was some software, billing software, that JAWS wouldn't access, and we did some scripting. This guy did some scripting, and we learned, and I taught her how to use the JAWS cursor to go read stuff. That's just an example. There's been other staff that have been, done similar stuff that's on the job, support. I'm currently working with somebody. It's interesting. They work for an insurance company too. And it's remote work, but, we're really about the core department is the department I work in, and they're mainly funded through Department of Rehabilitation. And rehabilitation, in order to have a case with them, to my understanding, is you have to have a vocational plan. You have to have a vocational goal, whether it's career exploration or whatever it may be. You work that out with your DOR counselor, and then you come to us for one of the vendors that you come for training. So, the exciting thing I think that about Society is the leadership where I work, and I get a little choked up when I talk about this, but they are so supportive and encourage that innovative inspiration that's in all of us, and they give us that creative freedom, to think outside the box. Hey, I can go, I don't know that software, but I can learn it, and then I'm pretty sure I can teach it, and sometimes just having the support of your employer, that they're willing to support you in those types of things. It's amazing. The music support group, I kind of showed a need, and it wasn't me, but it was me and a couple students, and we saw that when you handed him a guitar, there was this one guy, and he was not happy. He just recently lost his vision because of cycle accident. He was a young fella, and I remember one day we were in my office. He had a guitar. He started talking. He was just, he lit up in his confidence, and so we could identify that was therapeutic, and the executive director, the board of directors and everything, when it came time to remodel this, 3,000 square feet of space that we had in the building, they included a designated music room for that. And it's a great place to work. It's a nonprofit. I'm going to be honest with you, it is, but the amazing people that I get to work with, and I believe it's meaningful work. It changes the lives of people. It's it changed my life just by connecting me in a place where I can be comfortable with myself, and I have a level of acceptance of myself that I don't think I've ever had. And I'm getting a little too personal, but it really has. It's for me, even though I've had low vision my whole life, it wasn't until, I embraced the cane, and I use a white cane when I walk, because if I don't, I trip over stuff, and it wasn't until I just embraced it. It's like, okay, I'm tired of tripping over stuff. I'm tired of having to squint at that screen. It's not, making those errors, is that a 1 or is that an L or is that an 8 or a B? You know what I mean? And, and it's by being offered the opportunity to work. And then, when I was a student there, I did not connect with the other people like at that level. It took me a while to kind of warm up to it. And again, the music thing for me is kind of where it started, and that started soon after I started working there. I had a student named Joe Germano, and he played guitar, and we would sit up at me, him, and this other student, the one I was just talking about. He was not a happy young man, and when you handed him the guitar, he just came to life in his confidence, and he just it was like magic. It was cool.
Excellent. Yeah, I think that is really meaningful, and that is really important. A little bit, Randy, I mean, a little bit more about me, and I forget because as we've been saying back and forth, I've been so busy the month of March, playing catch up and doing some projects, and just this past March was just completely overwhelming for me. So I forget which, parts of my story I've told you. So if I'm repeating myself, well,
Oh,
sorry.
no, 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 go for it.
But my background is that a really critical point here is that I'm someone who was born blind. And
Uh-huh.
I tell people all the time, and I'll tell you, Randy, I'll try to understand what it must be like to lose vision as an adult. But I confess, I will never be able to understand that because,
Myself too. Yeah.
yeah, because that must be really weird. That must be really, 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 really traumatic. Just that must be just bizarre for people to have gone
Yeah.
through life, as a functioning person, as a sighted person, to which of course I cannot understand, right? And then you lose your vision, and then you have to learn all over. Basically, it's the analogy is basically you're a baby. You have to learn everything again, basically.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
must really, I can't even comprehend what that must be like, mentally, and the mental drain, physical drain, health, that really could affect people. So I tremendously appreciate what you're doing, and it's absolutely the
Thanks.
work that's needed. And we need more strong people in the industry who really really care. And simply the fact that you have a podcast about going beyond barriers, uh,
Yeah.
that I mean that really, I
Kind of makes
would,
sense now.
it kind of makes sense. It kind of makes me want to talk to you. It really makes me want to include you, as of course I will and do and want to include everyone here at Aaron's Opinion too. But yet I digress. I think it's really important that the way that you present yourself and the attitude you have in life is really important, and really it really stands out to me. And we see this, all over. I mean, all over the country. I mean, have you been into any of those support groups on Facebook for blindness and low vision groups on Facebook? I mean, if you have, you'll
Yeah, in
see.
the last year. Yep.
Yeah, and you probably noticed that there was not a lot of happiness in those groups, and that
The
there's a
good, bad,
lot.
and the ugly.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
mostly I got to tell you, I got to be a pessimist because I'm a pretty negative person too. I got to say that most of the behavior in those groups is negative about, dealing with society's, limiting
Yeah.
beliefs and things like that. So, anyone that we can get on this podcast like you who truly understands it and truly cares and is truly putting forth the effort, that's really, 30 and 40 years from now, what you're doing right now will have made all the difference in the world. So who knows? But it's really really interesting. And so
Thanks.
that's really really excellent. So beyond, um oh yeah, I I went off on one of my tangents. Yes,
No, totally cool, man.
I am very susceptible to going off of tangents. Some of my tangents are so good, I have to try to to try to figure out what street I was on here, try to navigate back to where I was going. But I'll tell you, so my academic background is in the field of international relations, and I'm a French speaker. And my day job is I happen to be a teacher. I also work online, and although I really do love my work, my work is perfect for me and my situation. I think that a lot of blind people around the world are feeling like a lot of the work they do, is basically underemployed. Basically, I think a lot of people feel that they're underemployed, and I think that it's a very serious matter in that
Yeah.
people are not, and this is my opinion. I don't doubt that there are people who are quote unquote underemployed, but I think what's more important for people to be is employed. So I'm certainly not saying that everyone should be underemployed, but I think that we need to change kind of reset that mental compass a little bit and say, well, what I need to be doing is working in a job that I really love, that's appropriate, that really is a good fit, and
Yeah.
hopefully move up from there. What do you think about that philosophy, this whole notion of underemployed? We say it a lot in the community.
Well, I mean, I don't know exactly what you mean by underemployed. I know that recent numbers show that 77% of blind, people that are legally blind and blind in the United States, I think it's something like 77% are unemployed. Now, underemployed, man, and I hope I don't offend anybody with this,
That's
but
okay. Well, it says right here on the channel, it says
yeah,
opinion,
yeah, yeah.
opinion. So you can't offend someone if you have an
So
opinion show.
I think attitude is key to everything.
Right.
Is key to everything. And I can tell you all kinds of stories why. But my father always said, he goes, look, is this an opportunity or challenge? And what's the difference? And it's about your attitude. You can very often take a challenge and learn how to use that to your advantage. I cannot stress, it's not because I'm a tech instructor, but I cannot stress how important tech skills are today if you're going to be competitive. If you're blind and low vision, and you're going to work at a competitive level with other folks. Right now with COVID, one of the challenges is, well, I can't get into my office and I have to learn, and I can't use my vision anymore to teach these students. So I have to, pull the real deal here and step up my game. And so that was the challenge, right? But the opportunity that came out of that is I had 3 hours more a day because I wasn't having to travel. I was, and I was able to start a podcast. And, that podcast, it's my personal podcast, right? And it's not endorsed by Society for the Blind, but they're very aware of it. I've actually just interviewed 2 of the board of directors. They'll be up, their episodes will be up next month. I'm going to be interviewing another one here in July. So it's not that it's sanctioned or endorsed by Society for the Blind, but it's just part of our community. You know what I mean? And underemployed, I don't know. Why do you say that? What do you mean by it?
Well, I
And it's
suppose.
like, okay, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, but I have this. Because if you don't have the correct attitude and you're stuck in that place where nothing, we all get scared, we all get overwhelmed. But if you stay stuck there and you don't do anything, then you're not doing anything. You're not moving forward. I mean, and again, it's just my opinion. So
Sure. I think what I meant was that some people feel that if they make below a certain income, that counts as being underemployed or something like that. I don't know. I don't really buy it. I'm just saying that that's something that I hear a lot in the community. I don't know.
I think we're underrepresented. I think that's actors, mainstream actors that play blind individuals, and it's like, why don't you get a blind person, a blind actor? I know a few. So, I mean, that I would say, yeah, we're underrepresented, but yeah. Just a second, I gotta fix something. I just unplugged something. Just a second.
Sure.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay. All right. Good. Cool.
Yes, sir.
Well, that is all excellent. And so I mean, on your and as I said before, as far as the podcasting goes, I don't even remember how I found out about Beyond Barriers. I really have no idea how I
Probably through
found.
Facebook.
Possibly, yes, possibly. So, how do you? I mean, I kind of just.
Facebook or you, because you have a YouTube channel too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I find guests basically by reaching out to people. But how do you? How are you finding guests, and do people contact you and things like that?
Yeah. I've been contacted by Angel Jane. She does a podcast called See Beyond. But it started off honestly, it started off with people that I knew. It's a couple of the people are students of mine or former students of mine, some coworkers. Um, I reached out to, and this is the episode I'm working on right now. I should have it published tonight. Is Christine Malik and JJ Hunt. They host a podcast called Talk Description to Me. It's probably my favorite podcast, where they have description-rich conversation about current events. But I actually found them on Facebook, and I went to their Facebook page and I sent them a message and I introduced myself. And JJ is a professional voiceover, and Christine is she creates a lot of content. She's a professional content creator. And I honestly was surprised when they replied. JJ replied to me. It took about 2 or 3 days, but I contacted them through Facebook. And we set up a date. It was on a Friday morning, and they were gracious enough to meet with me and have an unscripted conversation for almost 2 hours. Roy Samuelson is another one that's coming up. I have a coworker that knows him through Twitter, believe it or not. Yeah, Twitter, and there's this one platform called Clubhouse that everybody's going to use on Clubhouse.
I'm there.
Do you ever go into any of the rooms?
Mostly I just kind of scroll through the menu, kind of like look at who's talking. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But the trick with Clubhouse, I can already tell that the trick is going to be, number one, getting a following, maintaining a following, and then knowing who to listen to. It's like, and I don't have any problem with it all. I think it's overall, I think it's a great idea. And I also think that a lot of people are going to be pissed off on Clubhouse by all the crazy things that people say in these rooms, but that's another story. I think we'll destroy plenty of relationships, and plenty of friendships will be destroyed just over Clubhouse. I promise. But I think that it's really key to know who to follow and to know kind of where you want to take that and to use it properly.
Right.
At first I thought, okay, it's just another thing. And I mean, I'm a young guy, I'm 30 years old, right? Almost 30, right? I thought it was just another thing for me to download, just another thing. Okay, connect to Twitter. Okay. And enter the code that we text. I thought it was just one of those types of things. But actually it seems like it's geared more towards content creation and different philosophical conversations and things of that, things of that nature, as we would say. But my hope and prayer for it is that we get that right. We use Clubhouse right, because we've used other apps plenty of the time in not the right way. So,
can I ask you a question?
You can ask me all of your questions. Go for it.
How do you feel, or do you use TikTok and Instagram?
Well, no, and no feeling.
Okay. No. It's there's a guy on. I had a former student. She goes by the handle Invisible Melanin. She's got over 300,000 followers on TikTok. She has albinism. That's her cause of low vision. And she does like hair products, and she talks a lot about being confident and some of the misconceptions about blindness and albinism and stuff. And she even touches on race a little bit. And she has an incredible following. There's a guy named John Fernice. He's completely blind, and he's a woodsman or a woodworker. He makes holes and stuff on a lathe. And the incredible thing is the blanks that he makes to cut out on a lathe. He puts all these pieces of wood together. The grains are perpendicular and they're different. And his wife Annie, she's an artist, and she makes like these little clay figurines and paints and stuff. And they make these little TikTok videos, and they're a minute or shorter. And he's just got a huge following. And they're YouTube, Instagram, the Light Ninja on Instagram. He's a former student of mine. He's lost all of his central vision, but he's he was a photographer, and so he makes these composite images. We actually talked about it on one of my podcast episodes. And he's actually been commissioned by Adobe and actually been able to make money using and there's a lot of us, I think, in this last year, especially in the blind and low vision community. At least maybe it's just because that's when I started doing it. but I've really noticed there's been a lot of podcasts that have come up. A lot of us started about the same time. There and we're in TikTok, we're in Instagram, we're in a lot of visual platforms. You know what I mean? That a lot of people wouldn't think. So I'm trying to think about how can we release one every day, a TikTok video. You get them together on the weekend and record for about 2 hours, record like 2 little mini lessons, like today we're going to do guitar lessons or something like that, name the parts of the guitar and then show how to tune it. And you know what I mean? I got a buddy that we're talking about doing that with, who's a musician. So lots of opportunity, and you can make money doing it. You can make it, you can monetize it.
Sure. Definitely you can. Yeah. I got into Clubhouse because one of the podcasters from overseas, from Denmark, suggested that I join it. She's like, you really got to get into this thing. So I got on there. Yes. But it is very interesting now with all of these. I mean, all these new blind podcasters that I've never even heard of, and you just name dropped them all, and I'd never heard of the. That's the other challenge too, is that I think there are so many great blind podcasters all over the world that have their opinions that I've never heard of, and they've never heard of me.
Yeah.
It would be, it's always good to make these videos so that we talk about each other's shows in a positive and professional way, so that we start figuring out who all of us are. Yeah.
We've been really, I was just been really surprised how supportive each other. I grew up in an era where everybody's in competition with each other. And this last year, people have agreed to be on my show and to talk to me. That it's like, oh my God, this is like, 10 years ago, I would have had to go through a business manager to even talk to this person. And so social media and, the way we do things now because of COVID, I think have really changed the way we do what we do. And I think for a lot of us, if you have the tech skills, it's opened some big doors for us, where we don't have to spend so much time commuting, and we can take that and develop that creative side. And Aaron, we all have a limited amount of time. And so as we're talking about these platforms, and you said something, and I forget what you said a minute ago, but I'm thinking it's like, I don't know if I have time to learn that new platform and to invest, you know what I mean? Because it takes time. And that's the one thing that we don't have that we can just go pull off the shelf is time, to invest in something. So
right.
May for me was a really hard month. I didn't get any episodes out this month. I've got 6 recorded, but because of the editing process and because of school and my job, I just haven't had time to really sit down for 4 or 5 hours to get it out.
We'll do this. You know what I've done in the past, and I as you can tell, I do not edit. I just release these raw conversations the way they are, and that's kind of my flavor. That's my take. That's my version of creativity. Is that I'm not trying to be. I'm not perfect. We're just having a real conversation. I've released. Everybody around the community will tell you, Randy, you gotta upload at 9:07 a.m. on every other Thursday. They would say something silly like that. And my theory is this: we need to upload as often as possible, anytime, day or night. It doesn't matter the day of the week, because there's always someone in the world who is ready for the next installment. So I mean, maybe statistically, maybe it does matter what time they're released, but I don't really think it matters, honestly, what time they're released.
I want a good quality edit. I've been taking classes at a local community college here. I'm in the commercial audio and music production. And I've taken Pro Tools and some other stuff and really focusing on the quality of the sound. And, I worked in radio briefly when I was, like 20. And I got an idea of somebody possible for a guest that you might be interested. He has a podcast called The Blind Man in Black. His name is Brian Snyder. So it's The Blind Man in Black. He's actually a student of mine, but he has a podcast, and he's actually has a master's in film direction, and he's got a really cool, interesting story. He's a really cool cat to talk to, man. Snyder. So it's Snyder, and he's on all the platforms too. Um, so yeah, you might want to check him out, and he might come on your show, man. he, he's a cool dude to talk to.
Since you know the guy, please help me. Please get
Okay.
this all set. Get us set up. I'm always ready for someone like that.
I'll
I have interviewed other. It's funny you mentioned a film director. I have interviewed other sighted film directors
mhm.
here, but I don't think I've ever interviewed a blind
Well,
director.
he doesn't work in film right now,
Yeah.
but he has a master's from UCLA in film direction. So but he's just led such an interesting life, you know. I recently interviewed somebody that was the first competitive blind archer, you know, at national level, and the Paralympics have actually added blind archery as a category because of the efforts and demonstrations of her and her husband. Her husband developed this thing using like you know what a carpenter's square is?
Not
It's
exactly.
like a T square. So they use like sheet rockers when they
Okay.
to make their okay. So it's this big right angle thing, and it's one arm is like 4 foot, and it's like 4 foot the other way, and it makes like a T. So they call it a T square. And so it's basically modified by that. And he puts it on the ground, or she sets it up on the ground, and she's able to get her elevations. And there's these little tactile cues that she can pick up on, and you know she shoots competitively, and it's pretty innovative. Her name's Janice Wolf. She's a board member over at Society. Pretty cool lady. Really interesting story. See the inspirations everywhere, man. It really is. Are you putting shows out every week?
Am I?
Yeah.
Well, I put them out I put them out when I record, so it
Okay.
just depends
Okay.
on who comes and when they come and my work schedule and what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I just put out as much content as possible. Yeah. Hmm.
Let me ask you this.
Sure. Sure.
To somebody that's thinking about doing this, you know, a lot of people thought about there's a difference between thinking about doing this and doing this.
Right.
But what if you were gonna if you haven't done this yet and you're gonna do this, what would be the first thing that you would tell somebody to do?
I would tell them that you need to spend a lot of time talking to yourself and being comfortable with the way your voice sounds. Because
Oh man. Go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, yeah, because
Uh,
interesting
sorry.
reaction there. No worries. You have to be overly comfortable with your voice and the way that your
Hmm.
own voice sounds. You have to love your voice and accept that your voice is the voice that you were given to educate someone else, and that's what you need to do. So I spent obviously Aaron's opinion too. Okay. I had other shows that, I was working on before I got into this with the YouTube and the full,
Hmm.
the whole thing that you're seeing now. Um, for a very long time, so how I got into podcasting was I was listening to a lot of podcasts around the blindness community, the most famous ones, obviously the ones that none of the great people that you mentioned, but I was
Jonathan
noticing.
Mosen. Yeah.
You are the name. Okay, you are guys. You at home, guys in the comments because this is on YouTube. Guys, comment below. How many times did Randy name drop in this episode? Okay, I lost count at
Oh,
like 20.
sorry.
No, no problem. No. I'm totally entertained. It's totally cool with it, man. Totally entertained by it.
Okay, cool.
But goodness, you're good at that. You got that sprinkling those names in like, wow, you're name dropping left and right.
They're
But
just all inspirational people.
well, they well. Well, good. We hope that they don't mind that they're being name dropped. Usually they don't mind as long as we're positive and say kind things, which we are. Um,
Yeah.
but yes, to be overly honest, yes, since you brought it up, yes, I was listening to Mosen, and I still do, and I was listening to many other podcasts, and I felt that all of those podcasts were great and are great, but I felt that they simply were not really reachable and approachable enough for me so that I could come up and express my opinions and share my voice and the knowledge that, I either think I have or that I might have with the world. Well, I have so
Mhm.
many opinions and I love talking and I love educating, and I mostly just to be frank with you, I just love hearing the sound of my own voice as long as I'm educating someone. So
Right on.
I figured, you know what? Well, why don't I just, push that record button and say, just push record and see what happens.
Yeah,
Well, next thing
yeah.
I know, I'm sharing my thoughts with, blind groups all over Facebook, answering people's questions. That kind of occurred to me, this is kind of a podcast, isn't it? Where I can answer your question in the group and then we can talk about it in the group afterwards. And then from there, it just, up, up
Yeah,
beyond all the barriers. There we go. That's how
yeah,
that's
yeah.
how I got into it. So guys, you really have to be you have to believe in your own voice, and you have to love talking. You just have to love that activity, has to just please you, and it does for me.
Was there ever a time that you didn't enjoy the sound of your voice? I struggle with that. And I tend to cut a
Nope.
lot of my part of the conversation out because of
Why?
it.
Why? You have a beautiful voice because it's yours. Why? I love the
Okay.
sound. I love the sound of my abrupt, arrogant, uh, sometimes oddly odd and unusual and humorous voice. I love me. And that's a
Right
really
on.
that's a critical part of being a podcaster. You have to love what flavor you're giving the listener. So I love putting my unusual voice in your receptive ears. And that's
I
that's my prayer.
I think I think people I I think people can hear somebody when they're authentic, and I think people can also hear when people aren't authentic. So, thanks. I really appreciate your answer. Thank you.
Yeah. So, but wait a minute, I'm not going to let that
You'll have to
escape.
come on my show.
The what?
I said you'll have to be a guest on my show,
Yes,
maybe.
yes, please.
Okay.
No, not
Okay.
not maybe, definitely. Yes, please.
Okay. Cool.
Sign
Cool.
me up.
Cool.
Don't you know it's a lot more exciting to be a guest on someone else's show than it is to run your own. So that's a lot more exciting.
Yeah, I
But
didn't have to worry about hitting record.
no, but you do with me. You do with me because one of the people in our WhatsApp group is a lawyer. So like, just hit record, okay?
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah.
I got to give you, great
I
guests
used to
like you.
have Zoom set up.
Yes, go ahead. You have Zoom set up. What?
I used to have Zoom set up to automatically record, but I thought they kind of freak people out when as soon as they
Yeah,
come
you
in,
don't you don't want the no no you don't want it to be on auto record.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um. But anyway, no. I love being sarcastic and love joking around with people and just a great
Yeah.
conversation. That's what I do. But yeah, my advice, apart from everything I've given, is that you just push record and talk about something that interests you. That's really what you need to do.
Yeah.
And then other people that are interested in that will eventually listen. I had a guy in our WhatsApp group that I'm going to add you to in a few minutes. A guy, you'll talk to him very soon. And he was complaining and being a little frustrated in the group and saying, Aaron, I don't know what to do because I keep looking at my YouTube analytics and people don't like this type of show that I put out. And I said, let's call him Mr. Smith. I said, Mr. Smith, um, the fact that you are not getting the analytic results that you want, do not let your analytics dictate the episodes you enjoy producing. Don't ever stop producing.
Yeah. That's not why I
Uh,
do it.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's not why I
That's
do it.
that's what I said.
Yeah.
It's exactly what I told him. And slowly, you know what the miracle behind all of it is that slowly, people are finding out about Aaron's opinion too. My numbers are secretly going up very slowly, but they're up, right? So
Yeah.
this method of being interested in what I'm saying and having a lot of interest in and enjoyment in doing it, people secretly notice and then they tune in. So that's my
And then
advice.
they tell somebody on social media about it, one of their friends. You know
Well,
what I mean?
hopefully
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
harder. That's harder to tell.
Yeah.
That's less noticeable, but it is noticeable when every episode I enjoy it more and I get more out of it, and so do the guests. So I think I think I'm getting somewhere, or it's just my opinion. Who knows? Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is with podcasts, somebody who joins 5 years from now, they can go on and download your first episode. You know what I mean? As long as you maintain it.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I actually made a podcast, what motivated me to actually go legit? I was doing YouTube before, I would record them and put them on YouTube, but to actually get on the directory was one of the DOR counselors here had heard about it and had recommended that we make it available where you can download it on your Victor stream.
Mm.
Seriously. And so it's like, that's genius, and it's like, I didn't know, well, how do I get on the Victor stream? Well, they use the same directory that Apple uses. So, yeah, once I got past the little, give back to the dots, your little logo thumbnail, once I figured out how to get past that part, work that out, I was on the Victor stream, and it was like, that was really cool. Actually, I think probably most of my listeners use that device.
That's cool. That's really, really cool. And I have seen that analytic before. I haven't seen it since in my tools in my analytics where it shows the devices. But yeah, I noticed that
Yeah.
it shows you if they're down. A lot of people use the Victor stream, even you at home for Aaron's opinion too. I know I haven't found that area of the charts recently, but I know that someone out there is doing it, downloading over Victor stream over Victor. So
Yeah.
I don't know how that works, but well, whoever you are out there, thank you. So, Randy, I am starting to run out of time on this recording.
Okay.
You've
Gotcha.
been but hold on. Don't just jump off and put and sit down for your dinner. Yeah, you aren't done. Hold on. So.
Oh, no.
I always love to say that you've been an outstanding guest here at Aaron's Opinion too. Thanks so much. You've also been a very patient guest dealing with the technical problems last night, and then the less than a little shaky recording, but you persevered through it tonight. I really appreciate you hanging in there, and we made, as far as I'm concerned, in my opinion, we made another great episode. But of course, I have to ask you, if you could ask me only one question, to which you've asked many great ones, but only one more question to really make me sweat, to really see if I'm worth my salt as a podcaster. What do you want to know?
What do you do when you forget to hit record?
Hope that the guest remembered to hit record.
You sweat.
Randy, how could someone get in touch with you?
Man.
So, Randy, how could someone get in touch with you personally or the Society for the Blind out there in Sacramento if they wanted to?
Oh, great. So I got a couple email addresses. So,
let's just
so
let's just go with one. But
should I just send them to you and put them in the show notes? bb.unscripted@gmail.com. That's for the podcast. My name is Randy Owen. Society for the Blind, you can go on the website. It's societyetyforthblind.org. We have a website, fully functional, fully accessible. Come check us out.
So in other words, if I go to societyfortheblind.org, spelled exactly how it sounds, I would find all the information.
Okay. About Society for the Blind, yes, sir.
Okay, how about this? Actually, yeah, I did ask another guest to do this. Yes, could you send me a show note just saying literally like 2 sentences? Sure. Hi, my name's Randy, and then all the information that you just said in one note that I can easily copy paste and all that. All right.
Will do.
All right.
Hey, thanks for what you do, man.
My pleasure, Randy. And in that case, let me just end the recording right now.